City. And this is America's Mayor Live. And as they say on that, once a long time ago, great show. Live from New York. It's America's Mayor Live. Not once a great show, but presently a great show. So I was going to start tonight with the aftermath of the primary and the race. And Mike made a suggestion that I think is the right suggestion. You see what you think. We think the top story tonight, and I think this is right. And I think Dr. Maria agrees with this. Confrontation at the border. I won't tell you who that was. Would not be good for her doctoral reputation. But she's not a PhD from Harvard, which means she has a real one. So this is really quite extraordinary. As a student of constitutional history, before I was a student of constitutional law, which are somewhat different, but very useful to each other, obviously, in interpreting constitutional law, I don't think I ever thought I would see this. I mean, it isn't quite the showdown in Little Rock over the children going to school and Eisenhower. You know, that was a Republican president who used the troops to help blacks overcome the unwillingness of some of those states to enforce the decision of the Supreme Court. It was a Republican president and a Democratic governor who tried to stop black children from going to white schools. I've told you, always told you, the Democrat Party should change its name. It's the party of slavery. But now this is not about race. This is about protecting the United States of America. And I don't know if you think that I'm exaggerating this, please just listen for just a few minutes, okay? When I was mayor of New York in 1994, which is only a short time ago, really, there were, and we had it pretty much down to the number. There were 400,000 illegal immigrants in the city of New York. The Immigration Service could basically extradite no more than 2,000 or 3,000 a year. I knew that because I used to run the Immigration and Naturalization Service. And I did everything I could because, my main mission was to reduce crime. I did everything I could to have them increase that. Because I'd have to say that compared to the crowd that we have now, in terms of immigration, it was a dream. The 400,000 illegals committed less crime than the citizens. Fewer murders, fewer robberies, fewer burglaries. Many of them would have been insulted if I gave them welfare. I mean, Adams drew them here, offering them welfare and health care. They had no idea if they'd get health care or welfare coming here. And all they wanted, the vast majority of them wanted, in New York, they wanted to work in the back of restaurants. It would be hilarious. I would go into a restaurant and they would clear out. After a while, they realized I wasn't throwing them out. And I wasn't throwing them out because I was violating federal law. Federal government wanted me to. I would have. I wasn't throwing them out because if I threw them out, I'd get them right back. As I said, I had 400,000 illegals. The federal government had the capacity to remove 3,000 a year. So I did what an intelligent mayor does with an intelligent administration. We tried to figure out how to use those 3,000 extraditions, sometimes 4, as intelligently as possible. Murderers, drug dealers, con men, terrorists to some extent. And It was like our Comstat system, focused on those people. Nowadays, what I'm telling you would be impossible. I couldn't do that. I wouldn't have the information. First of all, the 4,000 has become 160,000. Wow. The 4,000, I had a fairly complete set of vetting information on them. This 160,000, they have, here's a nice, good old Yiddish word. You know what they have? Bupkis. Bupkis. Nothing. Except what the guy wants to tell you. This guy could have come from the biggest crazy house in Guatemala, or he could be a PhD in math. It wouldn't make any difference because nobody would know. Possibly, if you could find the right cartel member that took the money to get him in, you'd find out. This is a disaster. There is no possible way to exaggerate it. It may turn out in history to be the worst invasion of this country, the most insidious, because we don't know what they're doing to us. No, I shouldn't say that. We don't know all that they're doing to us. We know that every year, increasing numbers of people since Trump left office are dying of fentanyl poisoning. If you want to listen to the pathetic liars who try to claim that Trump caused this, I can't even imagine how they could say that. 420,000 people came in and were registered in some way the last year Trump was in office. The first year that Biden was in office, it was almost 2 million. Then 2.4, and now 3.2. So you go from 400,000 to 3.2 million. Those are the ones we have their names maybe written down on a piece of paper. We don't have much else. With regard to the Chinese, we only have 4 other pieces of information about them. Now, you're not going to believe me when I tell you this, because it'd be really good if I was lying now. We used to ask the Chinese the most questions. Why? Because they come from a country where, yes, there are many wanting to escape oppression, but there also is a very cunning, unbelievably skilled intelligence service there that will try as best they can to fool us, and have been enormously successful, more successful than any other country ever against the U.S. in penetrating us. Right? I mean, they have penetrated almost every one of our universities. They have brainwashed our children. Our children, many of our best educated children are confirmed Marxists, which is completely contrary to our way of life, our form of government, the rights given to us by the Constitution, and our religions. But they've brainwashed them because we didn't know they were being let in. So just 5-6 months ago, President Biden, based on many complaints from Chinese illegal immigrants that it was taking too long to get in, reduced the number of questions to 4. Now, of course, this is completely consistent with taking down wires that are put there to keep the illegals out, to keep the state of Texas safe. And when thousands of people, sometimes as many as 10 and 12,000 per day, cross the border, and no one on the other side of that border has vetted them but organized criminals, you have every right to assume that, even though it isn't true, but for the benefit of the safety of your people, that everybody coming over is a danger. It's more likely true than not that most of them are dangerous. And plus, you just don't have any more room or money. And you have every right to keep them out. And the federal government is supposed to keep them out. So you put up wire to stop them, like we do try to stop people from getting out of prison. And the United States government, which is charged with the responsibility of protecting our borders, goes to court and gets a court to agree 5-4 that it has the theoretical right to supersede state law and take down the wires. Now, I'm going to try to explain to you why I think that is a really pig-headed, silly, pin-headed decision.
And you are the best lawyer in the United States, one of the most prolific prosecutors with a great record. Now, from my understanding, the Texas Constitution says that they have the right to protect their borders. So what say you?
They do have the right to protect their borders. However, if the Texas Constitution or the measures that Texas takes interferes with a federal law, the preemption clause of the United States Constitution, and gosh, this is pretty close to what we fought a Civil War over, say that the federal law predominates. So now here they are taking they're taking that at a 360-degree level without analyzing what it's about and saying that federal law preempts. But suppose federal law is completely contrary. In fact, the administration applying the law is applying it illegally. Then does federal law predominate? Can the federal government take an illegal, unconstitutional application of the Constitution of the United States and put a state in jeopardy and utilize the preemption clause when that's what it's doing? And that is where you have your 5-4 split. The five almost give up on how can we tell. Here's how you tell. This one is pretty simple. The United States Constitution says that the president and the executive branch have the obligation to keep us safe and secure, which includes at the border. When you're taking an act that inherently makes you mortally unsafe, it would seem to me that the preemption clause has absolutely no application. That was intended to mean that a valid federal law applied legally supersedes a state law, no matter what it is. I do not believe that was meant to allow the federal government to misinterpret, to illegally interpret a federal law, to act almost to the point of being an accessory to a crime and using that as an excuse to invoke the preemption clause. And I think the court, either through, I have to say it, a lack of intellectual discipline. I do not believe that Coney Barrett can't make those extra steps to look behind the purpose for which the federal government is exercising its power of preemption, and it's exercising it for an illegal purpose. It's exercising it specifically to assist people coming into the United States illegally. When you're doing that, you should not be allowed to invoke the preemption clause in the United States Constitution. Now, here's the problem. There's no place else to go. I mean, Governor Abbott is required to follow that ruling. It may be wrong. It may be incorrect. But until it's reversed by the court, it has to be followed. Like Roe against Wade before it was changed, or now the different version of Roe against Wade. You may disagree with them, but you have to follow them. So Governor Abbott is in a very, very difficult position. And I don't know really, haven't had a chance to think long enough about what recourse he has. He could ask the court to re-argue it. Very rare, very, very rare. But it is such a fundamentally important decision, and I think fundamentally flawed. I think, I'm sure I haven't explained this really well. This is an extraordinarily complicated constitutional concept. But what I'm saying is the preemption clause works. when it's being used lawfully. I do not believe the founders of the Constitution meant that when the powers granted to the federal government were being used in a criminal manner to aid a criminal conspiracy, that they were intended to preempt state law. I do not believe that. Now, I can't prove that, and it is a question in which two great lawyers, could disagree. But I think the more practical of the two lawyers would interpret it to protect the lives and safety of the United States when people here are dying in record numbers of fentanyl. The last official count we had of fentanyl was 75,000 dead a year ago. They don't want to give you the new number. It is well in excess of 100,000. And when they blame it on Trump, that is the biggest nonsense of all. Trump never had numbers like that with death of fentanyl. In fact, he brought it down the last year he was in office with a fabulous fentanyl task force. He got the cooperation of the government of Mexico. The government of Mexico was going to cooperate with this namby-pamby weasel.
So, Mayor, the unofficial number for overdoses of fentanyl last year is 112,000.
Isn't that something? I thought 111. Pretty good. Huh?
Pretty good. Pretty good.
Well, I got a lot of sources. But is that the whole year? Have they finished it out yet? Probably not.
That's the whole year of 2023. Yes.
I think they got it done.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, you know what happens? You always get a few. You always get a few to take you up one or take you down one. And I think David Dinkins escaped 2,000 murders in the year of our election because something characterized as a murder, which took him up to about 2003. 2 or 3 of them then got characterized as not murders. And then sometimes the opposite happens. You're at 1,999 and 3 things get characterized as murders, and boom, you go over.
That happens.
Yeah. Well, Mayor, this is actually NPR reporting 112,000. So,
Oh, it's probably 150.
It might, but still, you were right on the money.
No,
Like,
no.
yeah, but
It's
it
probably
is, yeah.
150.
I would say it's probably maybe 115, 116, couple unreported, fentanyl.
Well, yeah, but you have to figure there are
Right.
unreported.
Right.
Even the 115 is a little bit. How do you know how many of them are just fentanyl? And probably nowadays, I would say, and Dr. Maria had to leave to do something, but she would know this. If fentanyl is involved in any substantial degree, and there are other drugs, fentanyl is going to be put down as the cause of death because it's the most powerful. I mean, I guess if it was a tiny amount of fentanyl and a massive overdose of cocaine, they'd attribute it to cocaine. But there's no need for me to describe to you how dangerous fentanyl is. Dr. Maria has done it many, many times. But here's what I want you to consider at the border. Here's what's happening to us. We do, and this is all true. Nope, this is not MAGA conspiracy. This is life and death, future of America or not. We do not have a southern border. People cross the southern border at will. The ones who are stopped, which maybe have, are questioned peremptorily, quickly. And it's getting quicker and quicker. All you need to do is read the reports and all the complaints, because the Immigration Service, we would wish the motor vehicle bureaus would be like this. The Immigration Service is user-friendly to the illegals that want to come in. So, for example, when the Chinese complained about, like when I complain to my bank or credit card company that I'm on the phone too long, I just stay on the phone longer. When the Chinese coming from Red China, knowing that some had to be spies, unless you're stupid, complained about it's taking too long, they took 40 questions and said, oh, what the heck? How many spies could we let in? 10, 12? Let's just ask 4 questions. And how do we know? And how do we know they're not spies? Oh, they told us. Mm-hmm. You know, those damn Chinese spies would tell you immediately they were spies, right? I'm coming here to steal some nuclear secrets. I just want you to know that. Now, it is possible. If this were just a total Biden track, they might have actually been escorted to the place where they could steal the secrets so they could do it efficiently. Remember how he treated the balloon? The balloon was here to spy on us. First he didn't tell us about it. Then he lied about it. Then he kept lying about it until it got out of the country. And then he shot it down, but not until after they were able to send every single damn picture they took to the Chinese intelligence service. And I'm sure he made a call right beforehand and said, is it okay for me to shoot it down now, boss? And they said, give us about 30 more minutes. We're still downloading a couple of shots of a few nuclear missiles. Now, you'd like to say I'm crazy for saying that, right? I'd like to say you're crazy because you're sitting there like some naive jackass thinking that $31 million was given to the Biden family for fun so Hunter could have more cocaine. Huh? Really? I mean, this country did not become the powerful challenge to the greatest country on earth by giving money away to drug addicts in millions and millions of dollars, or investing $1.5 billion in a drug addicts investment fund. The partners in the investment fund, China must have done really good due diligence on this. Hunter Biden, degenerate drug addict, the son of Vice President, stepson of Vice President Kerry, whose qualifications for handling $1.5 billion in Chinese money, I have no idea what they are, none, except that his father was Secretary of State. Devin Archer, who was close to both the Secretary of State and was the best friend of Hunter Biden. And finally, the nephew of Whitey Bulger. I want you to think about that as we take a break. How is it that the vice president's son, while he was vice president, was in business with Red China and with the nephew of an organized criminal, and you didn't know it? We'll be back in a moment.
Body is an amazing chemical laboratory. When you give it the right chemistry, it functions the best. Balance of Nature is the ultimate whole fruit and vegetable chemistry.
Get 35% off your first order by using discount code Rudy.
You're back there.
I am back with my fruits, my veggies, the only way I can handle the bad news every day. Every day Biden does something that says, I'm a crook, I'm a bum, I'm demented, or I'm a traitor. Is there a day that goes by that he does it? Come on. Cutting the wires so the illegals can get in. He has his, I don't know what Christopher Wray is. He is not a good man. Whatever he is, he's not a good man. But Christopher Wray testified that there are virtually, the impression he gave was, what did he say? They have like red lights for these dangerous terrorists, suspected terrorists. He's never seen more ever in the history of the country. Like they just came here now, like it was an invasion from outer space, and they just came here. Hey, Ray, they've been coming here since you were FBI director, and you haven't done a damn thing about it. You never went and complained, did you? While it was going on and something could be done about it. I served in a Justice Department when people saw things happening that were illegal or unjust or dangerous. They got up off their big, fat backsides and went and complained and raised the issue. That's what you're being paid for. You're being paid to protect us, not protect you and the FBI. Well, if you're upset like I just did, it's very important that you have your veggies and that you have your fruits. Very important. And I have them every day because I take balance of nature. I take 2 in the morning of each, 2 in the morning at night. Sometimes I take a little more when it's going to be a really tough day. And it's really worked out very, very well for me. And I hope you try it. I think it would be very, very helpful. Give it a shot. 35% off if you use code Rudy.
That promo code.
Okay. So now let's talk a bit about the war. Okay. And where that has gone, because we've gotten away from it just a little bit.
Being in New Hampshire, I think.
Yeah, we got away from it a little bit, but the Israelis, while the talking is going on, I mean, the Israelis are so much better than we are. They don't get. We are under Biden, who honestly, I don't know who he's working for. I don't know if this is a product of his being like so horribly demented. He just by nature screws his country at every occasion, or he's getting paid by somebody to do it, or I sure know. I mean, the China part I got figured. Some of the others I don't get. But some of the stuff he doesn't even have to do that hurts us. But the war, we are now on the side of Hamas. But think of the following stupidity, because this jumped out at me the other day. I saw a big article in one of the communist newspapers that said that Hamas and Palestine do not want a two-state solution. So I said, well, wait. They don't want a two-state solution. And Netanyahu and Israel don't want a two-state solution. Exactly who are these two states going to be? The U.S. and Iran? Biden is pressuring the living daylights out of Bibi. Didn't talk to him for 2 weeks in a huff. Maybe he forgot his number. I don't know. Because Bibi will not say, when the war's over, we'll have the Palestinians involved in government. Now, I know the liberal, dishonest press makes that sound irrational. It's perfectly rational. If you had a next door neighbor and they had a person there in their house, and that person vowed to kill you and your family, came in one day and killed half your family, and then they eliminated the kid. They got rid of the kid, and they said, well, now you can live safely with the family. But then they brought the kid back. Would you agree with that? Of course you wouldn't. So here's the problem. The problem is what we started doing 30 years ago with a very, very poor decisions by Jim Baker and then by Bill Clinton in embracing Yasser Arafat and taking a man who just completely outfoxed them. I mean, I hate to use the analogy, he took their pants off, not necessarily with Jim Baker, but with Clinton, but he took his pants off. And to the detriment of, the Jews, the Americans, everyone else. Clinton gave him billions, and then when it came time to put up or shut up, he stuck his tongue at him and said, you're a big jackass. I don't have to do what you want. And kept his money, wife, millionaire in the south of France, people in Palestine starving. And also, over the last 30 years, everybody in Palestine is trained, if not brainwashed, to hate Israel, hate the United States. So here's what they are asking us to do. The Democrats, are asking us to create a state that will be made up of numerous people who, from the day they were born, were taught to kill you. America. In other words, we will create another anti-American terrorist state. Does that make any sense? Except in the mind of a warped, left-wing, Marxist-educated nitwit. Does that make any sense? Why would we want to invest all these resources? We got enough problems with Iran, right? We create another one. I mean, Carter did a pretty good job of creating that one. So now Biden, I guess, wants to prove that he truly is a worse president than Biden, so he can create his own terrorist state. But then they'll be responsible for killing as many Americans as Iran was. And remember, we can't trust Biden at all, or Prince Obama. I have never gotten an answer to why they gave money, billions, to a terrorist state. When you know that one of the problems domestically in Iran is that for a while, when we had a real president, they were starving because they elected to use the money that we were restricting because Trump banged down on them immediately. They were using it for terrorism rather than to feed their own people. Because they're zealots, they're maniacs, they're evil. And I do not and will never get over how the president of the United States, Prince Obama, sent hundreds of millions and billions in cash to terrorists and is not in jail for it. And you want to tell us we have justice in America? They're going after Trump on things that I can't even find them in the criminal laws. I can't find the laws that he violated. I can find the law. You want the law that Obama violated? It's called money laundering. Want another one? You call it treason, right? Or accessory to murder, when you give cash to a murderer. Governments do business by wire. Here's a suggestion to anybody that becomes president. If a government wants money in cash, don't do it. Here's a second suggestion. If you're in his administration and he does do it, have him arrested.
So, Mayor, if you're advising Bibi, or if you're part of the Israeli government today, are you kind of waiting and hoping? I mean, you're never waiting and hoping, but I mean, come November,
Jews don't pray like this. I'd be
Right.
every day when nobody was
for
looking.
November, right? And so,
God, is there a way to make time go faster? God, you've been very good to the Jewish people. I read the Psalms every day, direct communication. I read a beautiful Psalm today, by the way. And but now it's time to, like, you're God, you can do anything. Can you make like 6 months go? And then I get that man, I'm so sorry I had fights with him. If I could just have that crazy guy back again, Trump. Oh,
I mean,
man, let him tweet what he wants.
I mean, he was willing to. He killed Soleimani. The Iranians know, and we know the Iranians are the ones behind October 7th. They know with Trump in office, it's a different ballgame. And so I know.
I mean,
you know more than anyone.
do you know the world is completely out of kilter because it gets even really out of kilter because we have an insane leader, but because America doesn't lead.
Absolutely.
America doesn't lead. They don't know what to do. They don't know. You think Macron knows how to lead? They've always they've been like.
But how do you convince all these young people in America now who are marching over something they have no idea? They don't know what they're talking about.
It's interesting that Jamie Dimon gave the talk that he gave. That to me, that was a big, big step. Jamie Dimon is the head of the largest bank in the United States. Jamie, I don't know. I don't know if Jamie's a Republican or a Democrat. He sort of runs a bank where you have to be both. And I'm not honest. I'm not being sarcastic about that. Really, he's got to think about the good of he's got to be able to talk to both parties. And he has had very harsh words to say about Trump, particularly since January 6th. He did buy in, and I hard time. I had always had great respect for him until he bought into Black Lives Matter. And for me, Black Lives Matter is like a red line.
Oh yeah.
You give money to police killers.
Oh yeah. I mean,
hard for me to even think about you anymore.
When's the last time you've been to a Giants game?
Or Yankee game.
Or Yankees.
I
So
watch
I didn't
them.
want to go there. I know Yankee. That's like
I watch them.
6%.
But I
don't
mean, I
like
can't.
that.
The Black Lives Matter bowing and scraping, and particularly when the police do so much to protect them. Now, maybe it's a failure to not read what they wrote, that they want to defund cops, and that, or not listening to them saying, pigs in a blanket, fry them like bacon, or the fact that every time they have a riot, cops get beaten up, go to the hospital, and very often get killed, and that cops do so much for them. I did think I did hold them more responsible, though, because I think they did it in a rush of pandering racism.
That's right.
Because I think that at core, they're guilty that they're somehow racist. And then you can just kind of whip them in line by saying, if you don't do it, you're a racist.
And so they get you to fall.
Give me $100 million so
Bingo.
Patrice Colores can build a big house. And they don't bother to look into, they're giving it to a communist Marxist organization. That's not Giuliani saying it. Patrice Colores, let's give her credit for one thing. The woman was straight out. I am a dedicated, very well-educated Marxist, telling us, I'm telling us right away, I'm ready to follow their 20 principles for taking over a government. One main one, destroy the family, which she did a good job of.
So, Mayor, you're saying that that big mansion in LA is not the Black Lives Matter headquarters that was built on white guilt that she said? It's actually for her? Wow. What a revelation.
But that's not. But these race baiters, right, Mayor? They have to keep the focus on race. They have to keep it on race.
Do.
They can't, they can't win on the substance.
I think Jamie gave a lecture at, I think it was the Davos, to stop all of this stupidity with these people are deplorables and these people are, obviously Trump is doing with all this support that I'm paraphrasing now, but the economy was in a lot better shape. The world was at peace. And we had a lot more room to do all the things we had to do to improve the world when Trump was president. I almost fell out of my chair when I read that. I said, my God, that's the most sensible thing I've seen from a guy who was starting to become the king of wokedom. So it must be getting through to somebody. We're going to come back and we're going to do the 5 stories that, if not are the most important, are the ones that might have a tendency to be covered up by the fascist Biden administration or regime. We'll be right back. Towers Foundation delivers on its promise to do good and never forget the sacrifices America's greatest heroes have made for us. Heroes who risked their lives to keep our communities and our country safe. Heroes like United States Marine Corps Captain and pilot John Jeremy Sachs. Captain Sachs sustained fatal injuries when his military aircraft crashed during training, killing him and 5 other service members. He's remembered by loved ones as courageous, brilliant, and devoted to his career, family, and friends. John is survived by his wife, Amber, who gave birth to their second daughter 3 months after his death. Tunnel to Towers paid the mortgage on the family home for Amber and their 2 daughters. The foundation has helped over 1,000 military and first responder families navigate the worst of times by removing the burden of a mortgage payment. Our nation's heroes and their families need your help now more than ever. Donate $11 a month to Tunnel to Towers at T2T.org. T2T.org. That's T, the number 2T.org. T2T.org. Please donate now. This is Rudy Giuliani back again with America's Mayor Live. I talk to you a lot about my pillows, but I don't tell you what we have. Now, I was going to take the blankets off my bed and the sheets, but I got a little lazy. It's like if you had a baby, you put the little baby in the towel, or if you had a dog. I'm watching a lot of dog rescue stuff now, and you got to have the right towel for for like a dirty dog that has to be cleaned, you know? A nice dog. And now I put this out because Dr. Maria says this is one of her favorites. She has it all over her house.
And it's how smooth, how
Yeah,
nice are
like
those
that.
towels to use?
You don't even see any of my whiskers move.
But make sure, when you go to the website, be sure to use that promo code Rudy. Whether you're getting those slippers, the towels, the pillows, the sheets,
I was wearing these a little while ago.
the my slippers. Be sure to use that promo code Rudy.
Okay,
You're,
there they are.
you're doing yourself a favor, someone you
Mhm.
love, and of course you're supporting everything the mayor's doing here on America's Mayor Live.
All right, I'm going to leave them right here. I'll put them on later at the end of the show. So let's really quickly go through the five story. Navarro, 4 months in prison for doing nothing other than challenging in the right way whether executive privilege applied or not. And without getting a direct ruling, he was required to violate executive privilege, which had him between a rock and a hard place. It would seem to me they should get the darn thing resolved. And if he has to testify, then he'll testify, but it has to be resolved definitively. For some reason, I was in that same position and I asserted the attorney-client privilege, not executive, because it's arguable whether it applied to me as his lawyer, but the attorney-client privilege sure did. And they did respect it in that instance. The FBI didn't respect it, but I have to say the committee did. Then the second one, the second story of the day, the Fanny and her, a very special prosecutor in Atlanta who wants to put me in jail for the rest of my life, and Donald Trump. Looks like she may, well, these are all allegations.
Allegedly.
But if these allegedlys work out, she's going to get there before us.
Good.
Fanny, all the receipts, not all the receipts, a bunch of the receipts came from the wife. And boy, Fanny, I think Fanny was spending more time heading down to Florida with him. Now,
Allegedly.
allegedly.
Oh,
Now, here's the big issue they're raising in Atlanta. 4 times she flew with him, and he paid for the tickets out of the money they were stealing from the state. And they have the tickets of her on the plane, but they don't have the tickets yet of the cruise he went on. So you think she was going to see him off? What do you think? You think she was waving?
kind of like the goodbye.
Then in one case, I think he bought us some stuff in St. Croix.
Allegedly.
Yeah. Now remember, this is all money they generated with a phony grand jury. Oh, the second grand jury was phony too. But you don't use 2 grand juries to indict somebody unless you're trying to double the money, and also unless you're trying to orchestrate it to get it into the election year, which is also the reason why the extra special prosecutor, who knew nothing about felony prosecutions, knew nothing about RICO, but apparently knew something about how to do very effective election interference, which is to see if you can get 4 cases in 1 year, which would be a record. Nobody is tried for 4 different felonies, major ones, in 1 year, with the slightest expectation that they are being given due process.
Well, Mayor, with inflation, have you seen the price of cruise ship tickets and a week-long cruise now? With inflation, I mean, not cheap. Allegedly.
Well, they've already taken down 700 grand and they're not even finished. He'll go over $1 million on this. He'll go over $1 million on framing me and Trump. Yeah. And
Experience. It's not like he was brought in as like
it was completely obvious to an experienced lawyer like me that he was a jackass. Yeah, absolutely. This is not $1 million lawyer. I don't know about the other part, but he's not $1 million lawyer. Only Fanny can tell you if he was worth it.
That's funny, Willis.
Spell it right then. I'm tired to have to make up for her stupidity. First of all, she files an indictment against me, but she forgets to get the grand jury to vote. And the idiot court doesn't throw the case out. And when are they going to throw it out? What are they going to have to do? Bomb the courthouse to get the case thrown out? I mean, the case stinks. The case stinks. It stinks. It's a case that is made up of one irregularity, one impropriety, another unethical act after another, after another, after another. Are you worried about when I said blow up the courthouse? I meant Fanny and her. Or Fanny and her lover going to have to blow up the courthouse.
Hyperbole.
I am not.
Everyone-
I am not advocating that anybody blow up the courthouse. I'm not in favor of court houses being blown up. I fully expect to be vindicated in that courthouse.
100%. It's gonna happen, Mayor.
But
This
you
is
know,
still
it
the
was
United States of
hyperbole
America.
saying what do they have to do to finally get arrested? It's quite obvious they're stealing this damn money and running off. Anybody else, anybody that supported Trump would, well, like poor Mr. Navarro, he'd be putting leg irons by now. And Mr. Navarro didn't steal anything. He just was battling over them on the constitutional interpretation of executive privilege.
Where's the search warrants on these two?
I know where mine are.
Yeah.
I was such a dangerous criminal. They had to rip my apartment apart. They had to rip my law office apart. And by the way, what about invading the rights of all my clients and looking at their records? And what about taking my iCloud account for 3 years and not telling me? And these guys, they haven't even started the investigation yet. They're voting on whether to start I don't remember them voting on whether to start the investigation of me. The day I began representing Trump, the FBI went and stole my iCloud account.
Well, Mayor, I don't know if you saw the news lately, but the FBI is going into people's bank accounts and seeing if they have the words MAGA and stuff in there, you know. So you're not the only one.
If they have Catholic in there, are you in trouble?
I think so.
Uh-oh.
I think so.
If you have,
Our Catholic, we're all in
Yeah,
trouble.
yeah.
if you have anything in, I heard if you have anything in Latin in there, you're in trouble. Any Latin words
Latin.
in your account, or anybody who likes to read Latin is now being called in for investigations. That which is why I only at Christmas I read a few things in Latin.
Yeah, I remember that was a good one.
I had several inquiries about that.
Oh.
Hmm.
Yeah.
You're on the
Well, I mean,
watch list
yeah.
now.
Yeah, I had.
People that-
Yeah.
I don't know if it was true, but I noticed Ted and I noticed some very strange people following us.
Yeah.
And they were speaking in some language, they were speaking in Aramaic because those are the people who, that's what the people spoke in Rome.
Well, we're still doing our top 5. We spent a good amount of time on Fani. And
Okay, I want to play. Well, I'm going to do it in reverse order. Vern, everybody know who Vern Jones is?
He's a friend. He's a good friend of yours.
No, the other one, the Van Jones. Van Jones,
Yeah,
the left wing bomber or whatever the hell he is, or hates the police, hates everything.
that guy should win an Oscar.
Once in a while, he says something, that annoys him. Today, he said Biden should stay
in the basement.
in the basement.
It'd be best to have him hide, right? Yeah.
He should stay and he did not say that in a laudatory sense. Biden should stay in the basement, he said.
Keep that guy away from the gas.
Do you think he's right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, I mean, look, assuming they cheat again, it worked,
Allegedly.
it worked for them in 2020. Of course, they should do it again. But they're thinking
Ted,
they're going to do it again.
Ted. How long have you worked with me now?
Over a year now. Yeah.
And you're still that naive?
I'm thinking partners and who we work with, and you never know these days, right? What you can and can't say.
I know.
Knowing that they're going to cheat again,
gotta
knowing they're going to attempt to steal this,
You gotta be careful. You can get fired, right?
cut off mid-sentence.
Cut off mid-sentence. One never knows.
Why would they do it? Why wouldn't they try it? Doing the same game plan that worked in 2020, especially in a world where we're still not allowed to talk about it.
Let me see
We're
if I have
still
them.
not allowed to talk about it. Why would
see
you do
if I
anything
have-
different?
I can't seem to find the.
That's why you have to say allegedly after everything.
Yeah, yeah.
Let me see.
Well, when it comes to them, right? Everything's allegedly and maybe. We got to be careful.
I don't have the
When
right.
it comes to us, it's very different.
I don't have the right one. I'm looking for.
What are you looking for, Van Jones?
I'm looking for cut number 14 from today.
So, cut number 14, audio cut. Here's Here, I'm gonna. 14 for me is Eric Adams.
No, today.
Yeah.
No, today.
So we'll keep looking for that. We're looking for Van Jones. We'll find that, Mayor. We'll queue it up. Bring it right up here. And
No, I have Tuesday. I just have the Tuesday cuts.
we're gonna.
So,
put-
Mayor, while we figure out Van Jones, let's go to story number 2. What do you got for us on number 2?
On number 2,
Of your top 5.
it was I think we already did that. I mean, that's the Love Cruise.
Oh, well,
That was the Love Cruise, and then we have Piers Morgan. Piers has apologized for being wrong about Trump. Joe Rogan gives an excellent explanation of exactly why you can't be left wing anymore. And let's face it, the case in California means the complete end of our criminal justice system. The woman there, whose name I'm sorry I can't pronounce, Bryn Spacek, was in a bar with her boyfriend, and for apparently no reason, took out a knife and stabbed him 118 times. 108 times, and killed him. She defended on the grounds that she had marijuana, that she wasn't used to having marijuana, and she went into a marijuana psychotic fit, and that the marijuana killed him, not her. The district attorney, after all, we're talking about Soros district attorneys, right? Who don't care about victims and people who are dead or other people who may get killed by her later, took the charges down to involuntary manslaughter, which, I mean, you would think she'd be convicted of in 2 seconds, right? Well, she got convicted of in 2 seconds. The judge decided that it was all involuntary and therefore no jail. So, congratulations, Bryn. You got away with murder. You got any more in mind?
For stories, I mean, oh yeah, I got one, a local one.
Should she have to wear something like "Don't date me"?
Should you wear like
you know how
bracelet?
you know how they have those things with where you have to be a registered sex offender.
Right.
How about you be a registered murder offender?
Stabber.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
everybody gets a right to make a free choice. I think everybody is everybody.
Dr. Maria made a good point. Mayor, the precedent that this sets. If you commit a heinous crime in California, find a joint real quick, get high, and by the time the cops arrive, weed-induced psychosis made me do it.
Wild.
Do you see that as a potentially what comes?
100%.
Well, it's like when you're a drunk driver and you kill someone, you get vehicular manslaughter. You don't get murder because you were under the influence of alcohol.
Really supposed to.
Right.
I mean, the strict law, which of course we know or apply, is you are responsible for what you do if you voluntarily take a drink.
Right.
Yep. If it's you that.
And involuntary means somebody has to slip it to you. And there was no evidence in the case that the guy slipped or anything.
No.
Yeah, I don't think she argues that.
I think her involuntary is based on her saying that she was a novice marijuana user and didn't know what the effect was on her, and therefore that's why it was involuntary. But the law, going back to England, says the minute you take a dangerous substance, you take responsibility for anything that happens to you with that dangerous substance.
Yeah, but Mayor, I know many people who use marijuana, and I never seen them get crazy and stab somebody. So they probably there was like angel dust in there. Something was in there. It could have just been marijuana. It can't.
And the marijuana.
The emergency departments for a few years.
Seriously?
It's much stronger too. The weed is getting stronger and stronger every year.
America has been so brainwashed as to marijuana. It's going to be a shock when they find out how dangerous it is. It may very well be more dangerous in certain respects than cocaine and heroin in terms of danger to the brain. and a lot of depression, a lot of current depression, bipolar and chronic marijuana use is virtually devastating. And I think in the rush to let's have a happy society in which everybody can destroy themselves because the Marxists wanted to destroy us, we became stupid about marijuana. I mean, the biggest salesman for marijuana in this city is our idiot mayor. I mean, he was going to make a great big marijuana empire here, and we were going to make a fortune on it. Meanwhile, we've got about 2,000 illegal marijuana shops. We got 10 legal marijuana shops, and last year, this big golden goose for us cost us money. We lost money on marijuana.
Probably costs more money to go shut the legal ones down than actually get the revenue.
Yeah.
Law enforcement in the main.
Also, the good marijuana is all in the. So the legal shops make a lot more people familiar with marijuana, and then when they get really familiar with it, they go to the illegal shops to get the good stuff. And it's also, I think, part of the problem here is the marijuana of 20 to 30 years ago was baby marijuana compared to the marijuana of today. Much more powerful marijuana. Final thought about marijuana that should scare the hell out of you. You can easily hide fentanyl in marijuana. And they do sometimes mix fentanyl with marijuana, sometimes for just illicit purposes, and sometimes because it really will stretch the marijuana. It'll save you a little money. So you put a little bit in, but the people who do it aren't scientists. And don't you just have to make a little mistake with fentanyl and it can be fatal, Maria? I mean, in other words, if you're not a professional, the margin of error with fentanyl is very, very small. And even unknowingly, you could pass the.
Well, going back to story number 3, we got that Van Jones clip queued up. Why don't we go ahead and play it real quick?
Go ahead.
If I were Biden, I would stay hidden, and I'll tell you why. He doesn't inspire confidence, and he's not a great messenger for himself. If I were Biden,
They can't believe you just said that. They can't believe they just said that.
You've got to play that again. I should clarify. This is one of his supporters.
Look at the rest of the table. That's a good point, Mike.
if I were Biden, I would stay hidden, and I'll tell you why. He doesn't inspire confidence, and he's not a great messenger for himself. If I were Biden,
Anderson Cooper's about to have a seizure when he said that.
David Axelrod agrees with
my
him.
goodness.
David Axelrod agreed with him.
He said, "Oh yeah."
Anderson Cooper has had a couple of real shots this last couple of weeks with people coming on there saying things he didn't expect, and he doesn't look like a really hardy guy. Right? No, he doesn't look like
He cries easily, you know.
But it also looks like he gets shook up pretty easy.
Yeah.
I remember when Tony Carbonetti kicked that dirt on his goofy loafers and at ground zero and said, "You can't be down here without having dirt on you." So he kicked some of the dirt. Tony Carbonetti, my chief of staff, on Anderson Cooper.
It's amazing. Anderson Cooper has been around for quite some time now. He's always known for that.
Yeah,
That guy ages. He literally looks the same
Yeah.
every year.
But he's always had.
Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah, it's
He's
crazy.
over Fox.
he's very delicate though.
I would agree with that.
You can see that. No, you can see he gets really shook up. I mean, a lot of these guys have poker faces.
Yeah. Anderson's like, oh.
Well, I think we'll get Rogan tomorrow night because I do want to play the Rogan piece. It really is excellent. The next big event coming up in primary season is the Nevada.
Is it Nevada or Nevada?
Depends on where you are in Nevada. It's like, is it Missouri or Missouri?
Is it Missouri or Missouri?
Depends on where you are.
Ah.
And so I like to say Nevada because it's more fun. Nevada primary is coming up on the 9th. No, the Nevada caucus is coming up on the night, but I no longer have someone with me who's particularly sensitive about something as a caucus. Only New Hampshire. The primary is going to be held several days later, but it's just a beauty contest. All the convention votes get awarded at the caucus because they were afraid of cheating, which might give you a good idea that maybe the count in Nevada last time, as Eric Greitens has suggested, it might not exactly have been meet the requirements of accuracy. Let's put it that way.
Well, and with Nevada, it's very interesting. There's a primary, like you said, a primary and a caucus. The primary is on February 6th. However, President Trump is not participating in that primary. He's choosing to participate, and this is the right thing to do, in the party-run caucus 2 days later on February 8th. Only the caucus results count toward selecting the state's 26 RNC electors, but state law requires this primary. So voters can actually participate in both contests, but candidates had to pick one or the other.
So one or the other?
Yeah, candidates, yeah. But you choose the caucus. The state party is using the caucus.
But why the hell would you participate in the primary if you want delegates?
And so then the Nevada Secretary of State has even his friends are bringing up these complaints. And
His friends.
Of the Secretary of State, Francisco Aguilar. Is that a Republican?
What's he complaining about?
His friends are complaining, calling to say, look, Trump's name's not on the primary ballot. He's been alerting voters statewide in Nevada about the dueling contests. And of course, he sent out mailings, postcards, and posting signs, and he's speaking to the media to kind of explain this.
Can't be in both?
You cannot. Normally, states hold either a government-run primary or a party-run caucus, but not both. And under a 2021 state law, Nevada is actually required to hold a primary election when there's at least two candidates for the party's nomination. But state party officials decided last year, this is the state of Nevada, to hold a binding caucus.
So who's in what race?
So both, because the state party is going with the caucus, I don't know where, and I'm sure the article will tell us where Nikki Haley's going on this, but they're going to participate in the caucus. And the question is why are they doing this, right?
I don't think anyone is participating in the caucus but him. I think they dropped out.
Well, and
didn't they say that last night? Didn't he get a letter from the state chairman in Nevada telling him he had already won because everybody dropped out?
Well, that's the idea. And again, caucuses, right? And you know this more than anyone, Mayor, but this for our audience, I'm saying this. State parties, the actual apparatus and party players often they prefer a caucus. Right?
I mean,
have more control.
Look, you can argue which is better, which is more democratic, particularly with all the games that get played now with our primaries. And I mean, how democratic was the New Hampshire primary when, in fact, people from the other party or people who are independent can invade your primary? So how much is it your party's choice? Now, it has worked out that even with the independent voters voting in the New Hampshire primary, the party's choice always wins. So, for example, when McCain got a very heavy independent vote, he still won the party vote by 8%. And of course, Trump won the party vote by 40%. So so far, the independents have not been able to, at least in New Hampshire, overcome the will of the party. I mean, some states also, we can go find them, do both. They have a caucus and a primary, Michigan. And they award some vote. I think Michigan,
happening for the first time in Michigan.
I think Michigan awards some votes based on the caucus and some votes based on the primary.
We should do a special on this, and I'll take some research on our own part, but we should do a special on this, Mayor. What do you think?
We should. I'll tell you why, because some states do it and you don't know it. New York does that. New York, the party chairman awards votes. That's pretty non-democratic, right?
That's right.
You get a certain number of votes from the primary, and you get a certain number of votes from the primary from the party. That's what motivated Trump to fire Corey and hire Manafort, because he won 2 primaries and got less delegates. And he couldn't understand. Of course, he couldn't understand it. Can you imagine? You come to him and you tell him you won Louisiana by 10 points, but Cruz got more votes. Can you imagine telling Trump that?
I'd have somebody else maybe tell that one to the hey, Mike, why don't you throw that one to the president? I'll stay here with the mayor.
I mean, I guess I would. Someone's got to do it, right?
Yeah. The mayor of that.
Yeah.
Well, that's fascinating. And of course, with Nevada coming up and South Carolina right around the corner, do you see this thing wrapping up relatively quickly, or will Nikki Haley stick with it because of how kind of the delegate system is apportioned? You got to get to something like well over 1,000 delegates to win it, right? And technically, she has how many right now? We could look at it, but it looks a lot closer than it really is, right?
How are they close?
Well, if you're tracking the national delegate count right now, of course, President Trump has 32.
Right.
Nikki Haley has 17.
Mm.
Now, again, this isn't an argument for Nikki Haley. I think she needs to drop out immediately. However, a perspective from her camp, what they're telling donors, you have to get to 1,215 delegates to win the nomination. So these donors or these people behind Haley are probably going to folks and saying, guys, the media is saying what they're saying. They might write this off. But if you look at the math, Trump is at 32, we're at 17. You have to get to 1,215 to secure the nomination. That's right. Do you think that's what they're saying?
They may be saying a lot of things, but you got to exercise some common sense. I don't think there's a primary coming up that she has a reasonable chance of winning.
Nevada, what we're hearing, is going to go strong for Trump.
No, it's going to be 100%.
All the delegates go to Trump.
They all dropped out.
Yeah. And then U.S. Virgin Islands, there's 4 there the same day. So that's going to fall. We could look into that.
Right.
And then in a few weeks after that is South Carolina.
And he's winning by 40%.
So this should be over by the end of the month.
It won't be over on delegates until June. It'll be over if he wins South Carolina. It's all over unless she has a really nefarious purpose in mind, like running as a third-party candidate.
Last point. What do you think of that? What we're
I
hearing?
think it's a possibility. Curtis Sleewer
We got
raised this possibility with me today, and Andrew raised the second possibility. They're sort of variations of each other. Curtis raised the possibility that she's running, so she'll be the write-in candidate. You know, the candidate for that party that's being put together for Manchin. That she'd be a better candidate, and that she would take more votes from Trump. And then Andrew said maybe she's going to try to use that as leverage with Trump. Because indeed, you'd have to say, on the surface at least, that if she ran as a third-party candidate, and that she would take votes from Trump and help Biden win. So there are a lot of permutations and combinations yet to go because nobody plays this by the rules, unfortunately. But in any event, I think Trump is ready for all of it. I think the people of the Republican Party have made their decision, and I think it's going to follow the people of America make their decision also. I don't think there's much of a decision to make if you want to save your country. And of course, we've talked about that at length, and we'll talk about it at much more length. And if you join America's Mayor Confidential, you're going to have a lot more inside information on that, including lots of, well, in this case, lots of pictures of what went on in New Hampshire that we have that I think you're going to enjoy, and several discussions about as they come up, how these primaries actually operate. So that when you're discussing it with your friends and you're discussing it with other people where you are involved in trying to help us get votes for Trump, you'll know what you're talking about. I want to talk to you as part of an army that, goes out and will anticipate problems, will bring problems to you. When they're trying to cheat us, we'll let you know about it. This is what we didn't do last time. So please register.
Right.
Please subscribe. So we'll be able to develop that over a period of time. In part, your $10 will help us develop it also, because we need the money to do it. but also the communication system is enormously important. And the earlier you subscribe, the faster you can get in on it, and faster we can figure out how to utilize you if you want to be utilized.
Hit that purple button, go to x.com/Rudy Giuliani, upper right corner, hit that subscribe button. You'll immediately have access to all the content that he's been posting over, for quite some time now. And then of course, all the new stuff that's coming up. And there's some really, really good stuff, insightful stuff about the mayor.
Well, thank you very, very much. We had a very, very interesting evening. We're going to be back tomorrow evening, and we'll see how this all progresses. And it's important that we stay on top of this and take nothing for granted. The mere fact that he won 2 big victories, take nothing for granted, because it's too important. It's the future of our country and our way of life. God bless the people of Israel. God bless the United States. Our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve is because we're able to reason, we're able to talk, we're able to analyze. We are able to apply our God-given common sense. So let's do it.